you're an idiot. And
so to lose this fight would hurt you?
It would hurt, yeah. It would definitely, it would hurt. I can't even, I fear losing this more than I love the idea of winning it.
Oh, no.
There's one thing hitting the bag, there's one thing hitting the pads, and then there's sparring. You know, to be able to implement the shots that we're working on in sparring, yeah, it's very rewarding. So yeah, I always love sparring, love taking out aggression, love beating people up, love working on things, I love a lot about sparring, to be honest. It's probably one of my favourite things to do outside of fighting.
There are rivalries, and then there are generational wars that grip the soul of boxing itself. The sons of two legends, Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, are preparing for a battle soaked in history, pride, and personal vendettas. But behind the bravado and the training montages lies a painful, emotional reality. Chris Eubank Snr, a man who once stood in the same ring against Nigel Benn, is now forced to watch his son relive that trauma. Recently, Eubank Snr broke into tears speaking about this fight, and it's no mystery why. This isn't just boxing, it's reliving history in the most brutal way. Let's break down how this emotional storm is building. Conor Benn wastes no time dismantling Eubank Jr. with sharp insults, calling him an idiot 3 times over. The repetition alone is an emotional gut punch meant to not only belittle, but fully erase any notion of respect. It's not mind games, it's venom. Benn paints Eubank Jr. as someone who believes he's smart, calculated, and clever, but in reality is completely clueless. This sets a deeply hostile tone for fight. The level of disrespect here is unlike standard pre-fight trash talk. It feels personal, raw, and rooted in generational tension. And this could be a huge source of concern for Eubank Snr, who knows how dangerous emotion-fueled fights can be.
You know, you mentioned legacy. Legacy. Long-lasting effect of a particular event. That's what it means, okay? What me and Ben did, there wasn't any bad language.
In another jab cloaked in subtle analysis, Benn critiques what once made Eubank Jr. dangerous, his hunger and ferocity, but says that fire is now gone. He points to shifting motivations, arrogant decisions, and frequent team changes as signs of confusion and decline. What Benn suggests is that Eubank Jr. doesn't know who he is anymore, let alone how to win. It's a devastating psychological shot. For a father like Chris Snr, who built his legacy on discipline and pride, watching his son be described as lost and out of touch would no doubt cut deep and might even explain his emotional reaction to this fight.
It was his engine, it was his hunger, and his ferociousness.
Yeah. So you must have some respect for that.
But I wouldn't say that's as of the past 4 years.
No. Right. So you think that's gone from it?
I feel like the whys are very different now. The reason why he's fighting is very different.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the difference. But we all get to a stage in our career where maybe the drive is something completely different.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the drive, the switching of coaches, the changing of teams, the arrogance, you can't learn.
Conor Benn questions Eubank Jr.'s choice to fight a welterweight, implying it's more about financial gain than sporting ambition. He defends his own jump in weight class by explaining his future plans to return to 147 and go after world titles. This contrast paints Benn as a man on a mission, while Eubank Jr. is portrayed as aimless and opportunistic. The sting of this quote isn't just in what it says about Jr., it's in how it reflects on Sr. For a proud man like Eubank Snr, to see his son accused of chasing money instead of legacy must feel like betrayal to everything he built his name on.
Start from a minute. Why would you fight? Well, why would you fight a welterweight? You may say to me, well, why are you fighting a middleweight? Because I'm 28. I can achieve a world title. I'll knock Eubank out and fight for a world title straight back after at 147.
Take this fight and still do what you want to do.
Go straight back down.
Regardless of what happens, and you obviously can
but if you're looking at it from your perspective, you go, regardless of what happens, he can still win the world title.
Yeah, I can still go back and
Eubank is in line for the world title against Shiraz, against Canelo, against Janibek, chooses to fight a welterweight in Benn.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense apart from financial sense.
For a moment, Conor Benn shifts from aggressive to reflective, calling himself misunderstood. He claims he's not a bad guy, just someone who's been painted in a certain light. This window into his psyche humanizes him, offering a glimpse of vulnerability. It's a layered moment. While he still maintains disdain for Eubank Jr., he wants fans to see him as more than a villain. And maybe that complexity is part of what unsettles Chris Snr, that his son isn't just stepping into the ring with a loudmouth, but with someone carrying his own emotional weight and demons.
Me and you can sit down here. How come me and you could go for lunch and have a good
like
chat?
human and people.
Yeah, like just like a normal, down-to-earth, level conversation. Zero.
So he's not a bad guy. And you're not a bad guy.
I'm definitely not a bad guy. I'm not how, I don't know what happens, but I'm definitely misunderstood.
Yeah.
I am definitely misunderstood. Because I'm not a bad guy at all.
Fair enough.
Returning to fire and fury, Ben labels Eubank Jr. as arrogant and rude, saying beating him would mean more than winning a world title. This is no longer a sport, this is a mission of pride and humiliation. It's a modern gladiator grudge match. And if Ben truly values flattening Eubank more than a championship, it shows just how deep the rivalry runs. For Chris Eubank Sr., this adds a terrifying element. It's not just about victory or loss, it's about destroying legacies. Watching his son walk into a fight where the opponent's sole purpose is to tear down everything the Eubanks stand for, that's enough to bring any father to tears.
Yeah, because he's arrogant, he's an idiot. He's not my cup of tea. Every time I met him, he's rude. He's rude to everybody.
Yeah, and to wrap up round 12, what would it mean to you to beat him when you fight him?
It means
on
more.
April 26th, live on DAZN pay-per-view, by the way.
Yeah, it means more to me than winning a world title.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I'd rather flatten Eubank than win the WBC.
Ben confesses that losing this fight would hurt him more than the joy of winning. This speaks volumes. It means Ben is emotionally tethered to this clash in a way that could be dangerous. He's not fighting for sport, he's fighting for identity. His fear of losing says more than confidence ever could. And again, this highlights the immense emotional stakes Chris Sr. is reacting to. He knows what it's like to step into a ring with your legacy on the line, and now he's being forced to watch his son face an opponent who is terrified of the shame that might follow defeat.
Personal, on a personal level, on a family level.
Is that family name?
Yeah, on a more personal level. For me, it's like you're an idiot. And
so to lose this fight, it would hurt you?
It would hurt, yeah. It would definitely. It would hurt. I can't even. I fear losing this more than I love the idea of winning it.
Fair enough.
Tony Sims, Conor's head trainer, reminds us that Ben is always in good shape. This isn't a comeback story where the fighter needs to shake off rust. Ben is ready. They're focusing on endurance and refining technical precision. This type of prep speaks to a fighter who is not just emotionally invested, but physically capable. And again, this amplifies Eubank Sr.'s anxiety. His son isn't walking into a controlled exhibition. He's walking into a war with a man who is laser-focused, physically honed, and emotionally charged to dismantle everything in his path.
Conor always maintains himself in brilliant condition anyway, so it ain't as though I'm bringing in a fighter who's not been in the gym for ages and starting him off. He's already in decent condition, so what we're just doing at the minute for the first couple of weeks out here is we're working on his endurance, just working on the stamina, and then just doing a lot of technical.
Sims goes further to say that Ben has improved significantly during the long build-up to this fight. He's a better version of himself now than he was a year ago. Combine that with the fact that both fighters are carrying the weight of their father's history, and you get a pressure cooker of a matchup. This is more than personal, it's historical. Chris Sr. has already lived through one war with the Ben family. Now he's watching his son enter a new one, and he's helpless to stop it. That helplessness is part of what's breaking him down emotionally.
It's been a long time coming. Over 2 years we've waited, so I feel like the date's coming closer and closer to us. But all that time he's been working on different aspects of his game, and I think he's a lot more improved now than he was 12 months ago. So it's going to be a tough fight because both Conor and Chris Eubank, as we all know the history of the fathers, there's a lot of pride there between both of them, so you're going to expect them both to come in tremendous condition for the fight.
Strength coach Dan Lawrence offers a deeper look into the science of Ben's training. They've mastered his caloric intake, adjusted training loads, and prepared his body with military-like precision. There's no guesswork here. This is elite performance management. For Team Eubank, this poses a chilling realization. This isn't an emotionally unstable fighter making irrational choices. This is a perfectly tuned athlete who's ready for war. For Chris Eubank Sr., it's confirmation that his son won't be walking into the ring with an unprepared opponent. opponent. It's a collision course and both sides are armed.
Conor now stepping up in weight. We are doing something slightly different, but his weight's great anyway. He's 10, 12 pounds over exactly where we need to be. But we are putting him in a caloric surplus. Normally we go high and low on each training day. So some days are high, like the sparring days. Some days are a little bit lower to tap into the weight. Thankfully, he can now be fueled for.
Lawrence breaks down the methodology behind Benn's weight, energy, and recovery using devices like Whoop and Garmin. Every metric is monitored and optimized. It's a modern, tech-savvy approach to training that ensures Benn will peak at the perfect time. This kind of preparation is the last thing Chris Sr. wants to hear. It removes the hope that Benn might falter due to inexperience or poor preparation. Instead, he must now accept that his son is walking into a perfectly engineered storm facing a man whose body, mind, and motivations are all dialed in for destruction.
We started with doing a comprehensive profile in London, so we did rest and metabolic rate plus lots of other tests. We got this data to know exactly how many calories Conor's burning on a daily basis at rest, and now we use other methods like Whoop and Garmin to see what he's burning with each and every session. We add the two together plus some other things, thermic effect of food, so we have a total number of how many calories are going out. We then factor the nutrition into that. Myself and Glenn are working each day in terms of making sure he gets enough fuel in and ensuring that his weight's not coming down too quickly.
Conor Benn's fiery passion for the grind emerges in full as he talks about how much he loves the lifestyle early mornings, intense training, and full mental immersion into the sport. This is not a man going through the motions. This is someone who thrives on repetition and discipline. For Chris Eubank Snr, this level of obsession isn't just commendable, it's concerning. He's watching a man who not only wants to beat his son, but enjoys everything about the process of getting there. When you face a fighter who truly lives at war, the stakes rise dramatically and Snr knows it.
I've been in camp, been training anyway, but yeah, it's definitely like, camp's definitely intensified. Yeah, but we live for this. We're up at 5 a.m. almost every day. Yeah, just love this shit, man. Every day, 24/7. It's a lifestyle, baby. There's one thing hitting the bag, there's one thing hitting the pads, and then there's sparring. To be able to implement the shots that we're working on in sparring. Yeah, it's very rewarding. So I always love sparring, love taking out aggression, love beating people up, love working on things, I love a lot about sparring, to be honest. It's probably one of my favourite things to do outside of fighting.
Dan Lawrence goes into the specifics of the neuromuscular priming they've added to Benn's program. This includes high-impact isometrics and CNS activation routines that maximize readiness without over-fatiguing the body. It's cutting-edge, and more importantly, it's personalized. Everything they're doing is built around optimizing Benn's peak state for fight night. That level of precision reveals a team that's preparing not just to win but to dominate. Chris Eubank Snr, having grown up in a more instinctive boxing era, is likely stunned by how scientific and advanced Benn's preparation is. His fear, as valid as his son, is stepping into something unprecedented.
So we go through different phases in camp, and Conor likes to be neuromuscularly ready for the session. I want him to be ready for the session as well. So we do some priming exercises. They can be power exercises, but they can also be isometric exercises. So overcoming isometrics are where you're applying maximal force against an immovable object. And Conor likes that because it lights his CNS up before he does his heavy lifting. So instead of just going in cold, he prioritises that. And we like doing that in the middle of the week as well because it doesn't mean too much fatigue as well at a muscular level. So we'll be doing lots of it.
When I spar, it's not about, hurting people. It's not about knocking them out. It's about working. And the data just goes to show that, I didn't even go in the red zone once in sparring. I didn't realise how much boxing meant to me until it was taken away. So for me, boxing is my life, it's my world, it's who I am, it's not what I do, it's just the man I am. That's how I feel about
Conor Benn calls the fight legendary, though he also acknowledges it's riddled with obstacles. He refers to it as a fantasy tour for the British public, a rare spectacle rooted in generational legacy. This quote shows that Benn is well aware of the cultural and historical significance surrounding the fight, but he doesn't see it as just a media product he's aiming to make a definitive mark in history. This is where emotion and legacy collide. For Chris Eubank Snr, it's a nightmare knowing this fight might immortalize pain or loss, not glory. That's a crushing emotional weight to bear.
Oh mate, that'd be legendary. That'd be legendary. I'd love that. You could, but there's so many obstacles I've got to get first before we can even consider that. Yeah. So far, it's just a fantasy for the British public.
you know, but who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
Billy Joe Saunders delivers a scathing verdict on Chris Eubank Jr.'s career. He says flat out that Eubank will never be a world champion, not because of personal animosity, but because of technical deficiencies. Saunders argues that Eubank can fight, but he can't box. This brutal honesty from a fellow pro solidifies a widespread perception, one that adds enormous pressure to Eubank Jr.'s performance. For Chris Sr., these types of statements only pour salt on an open wound. As a former champion himself, hearing others diminish his son's chances would be excruciating. And maybe that's exactly what brought the tears watching his son fight, to escape his shadow while being crushed by others' doubts.
I'm waiting at the airport, and all of a sudden he's coming out of this same sort of shirts he wears, this big round straw hat. I'm looking at him, I thought, look at the size of him. And he's undone this tin of drink, and I grabbed the drink out of his hand, in a little glass thing, chucked it in the bin. I said, right, if you come in here like we're training here, like, got him in, and then he was loving it for a week, and then he started talking about killing himself. I remember saying to him, Tyson, your son, like, your kids are
You've got
watching
more
you.
value in life than this, yeah.
Like, can you imagine, like, your kids looking back now? And I remember the conversation having with him, sitting in the front room.
This fight isn't just about Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. It's about legacy, emotion, and the ghost of historic rivalry that still echo today. Conor fights with something to prove not just to the world, but to himself. He trains like a man possessed, speaks like someone who's been wronged, and steps into the ring like it's his only purpose. Meanwhile, Chris Eubank Jr. carries the weight of expectation, public scrutiny, and perhaps most heartbreakingly, the visible pain of his father, Chris Eubank Sr. Sr.'s tears aren't just a father's fear, they're a veteran's vision. He's seen the brutality of the sport, the lives it alters, the dangers it conceals behind the glitz of promotion. Watching his son walk into a fight that feels like deja vu against the son of the man who brought him both glory and trauma has cracked even the hardest shell. This isn't just about its history repeating itself, with all the emotional wreckage that comes with it. And when the final bell rings, it won't just be one man's hand raised, it'll be the closing of a chapter written decades ago. If you felt the emotion in the story, if the legacy, pain, and pride of this rivalry gave you chills, then don't just watch boxing, understand it. Smash that subscribe button right now and join the fight family here at Box Hub, where we bring you the stories that matter, not just the scores. Like the video, drop your prediction in the comments and tell us, is this a fight of fate or a mistake from the past repeating itself? This isn't just boxing, this is history, this is heart, this is Box Hub. Stay tuned and stay sharp.